Good morning. We are here on Manager Critic Monday, and you might have noticed a little bit of a change of scenery here. I've also minus the hat, minus makeup, but today we're going to talk about how to make good decisions. And literally, it'll be no more than 10 minutes because I'm actually at my daughter's flat and I'm house sitting, waiting for the builders to come to pull out her bathroom and renovate it for her. So I'm just here in a different location, hence making the decision to move from 9 o'clock to 10 to 8 to do the video so that I can maintain my commitment to be here every Monday, but I am earlier than planned. So how do you make a good decision? First of all, let's just talk about why do we even get to that point where we're criticizing our ability to make good decisions in the first place? Because I've spent the last 30 years with people helping them make decisions. What I do know is when you've got clarity of what you want and you absolutely have made the decision and you know how to get from where you are now to where you want to be, and if you don't know how to do it, you've got the confidence to ask for help, then you are likely to make things happen. But what I've learned over the years is that when we're going through change, the way that we give, receive, and invite feedback will often determine how confident we are to make decisions again next time. So if you make a decision and it costs you money, if you make a decision and it takes longer than you thought, what I found was people would be really critical and they would say to themselves, oh, I just can't make very good decisions, because if the decision went wrong, their feedback to themselves was that it was a bad decision. So one of the things I want you to think about today is that what information did you have available to you at the time of making the decision? Because sometimes it's a great decision in the moment with what you knew, and when new information becomes available, then you realize that there's a better way of doing it. That's part of learning. So that's about having confidence in your ability to learn and find new information along the way. But if you get to that point where you're really criticizing your ability to make decisions, particularly good decisions, then what happens is when you're in that critical part of the brain where you're complaining about yourself and not doing very well with things, that can actually reduce the oxygen in your brain. It can reduce the blood in the part of the brain you need to problem solve and to make decisions. And so it'll actually reduce your time frame. So when you're making decisions, you're going to do it much more from a flight, or freeze, from a survival point of view. And so you end up in this perpetual cycle where you are going to be less likely to do the research, to be able to think clearly and to project forward in time and reflect over things in order to make decisions in the future. So my thing for you, first of all, is to be aware if you're being critical of yourself and recognize that decisions can be good in this moment. And when we learn new information, hindsight is a great thing. But if you didn't know it when you made the decision, how could you have possibly made a better decision? Secondly, if you are saying how do you make good decisions, then start right now by going, for you personally, what determines good? What would be a good decision? And look at the criteria that you're giving yourself. Is it that it goes smoothly? Is it that it goes fast? Is it that it doesn't cost you time or money? Part of any decision making process often involves some kind of learning process. It involves some kinds of failing. We might have to learn from, we won't know until we take the decision whether it's going to work. Some decisions, you will not know if it's going to work unless you have a go at it. And so a lot of this thing about what's a good decision is people are looking for exactness or preciseness and absolute guarantees before they act, trying to prevent making mistakes, where actually sometimes part of this is about being okay with making mistakes, being okay that part of learning and growing and experimenting is you make a decision, you go with it, you get feedback, and you find out if it works or doesn't work. People often talk to me about confidence, and often confidence is the other side of action, and action will only happen when you actually take the decision. But if you're stood here trying to make sure you've done all the evaluation possible before you act on it, then you might end up in a position where you start to lose confidence because you feel stuck. But the confidence isn't going to happen until you've acted on it. And sometimes you have to act on the decision and it go wrong so that you can eliminate it and go, actually, that isn't going to work for me. So think about when you're criticizing yourself, if you want the answer to the question, how to make good decisions, start to think about what do you determine as good. Be curious about what is it that you're what's happened in decisions that you think were not very good? Where's your evaluation coming from? What are you measuring it by? The other thing you can do is actually look at how you make decisions right now. So for me, one of my patterns was that I would be listening to what everybody else wanted and working out how we can make that happen time-wise, resource-wise, and be really proactive to do the decisions. But often those decisions weren't inclusive of what I wanted. And because I didn't really know what I wanted, by the time I'd acted on all the other decisions, I was often exhausted, burnt out, tired, irritable, miserable. So my definition of a good decision became one that included what I needed to work, learn, and live at my best, and more of the time to start with. And then eventually it became so it was always including what I needed. And if I was going to be stretching my resources slightly, then I was much more aware of how much time I can be outside a resourceful state before I need to regroup. So thinking about for you, how do you make a good decision? What determines good? If those of you, and please feel free to pop it on the box in the comments. What determines a good decision for you? You can look at how you're making your decision. And you could look at decision making views like what. So sometimes they're very head orientated, they're very logical, they're very much about black and white. Well, this is how much it's cost, I've got that much money saved, it's fine, I can do it. Sometimes it's quite heart driven, you just really want it, it's something you love. Sometimes a gut, you kind of know that you've got to do it, but you can't really give it language or haven't got the way of articulating it. You just know somewhere. So I often will know that I have to do something, but I haven't always got the language to do it. And over the years, I've learned to trust that gut, and I know it's a good decision, but sometimes I don't know it's a good decision for some time later. Sometimes I haven't got the evidence, the proof, but my proof comes in reflecting on whenever I've followed my gut. There's usually a strong pull that I want to do that. If I just do head and heart, then sometimes that's because I'm trying to stop, don't want to upset somebody, or I'm trying to keep the peace. Sometimes there's a lot of, mind games played around, money. But if I trust my gut, if there's a real sort of gut that this feels right, often the pattern is that it shows that it has. So you can work out how to make good decisions by looking back over the ones that you've had before. What is it that's worked? You can use imagination, imagine what it would be like if you're going forward. But then also in the present tense, you could be actually just noticing next time you make a decision, are you evaluating that as a good decision? What happened just before? What happened during the actual process of decision making? What's happening afterwards? And so, as anyone that's watched my videos will know, it's 3 steps: clarity of what you mean by what you say, confidence in the process, what's the things that happen over time, and just noticing what kind of feedback you're giving yourself as you go through that change process. So someone lovely just joined me. I haven't got your name on here at the moment. It says Facebook user just because of the system I'm using. So for me, I'm going to, it's probably type, is it being in full alignment with my values system means my gut tells me that it's the right decision in a situation. Talking over with trusted people helps confirm it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I've promised myself I'm going to keep this to 10 minutes. And there's a really great thing there. If it's in line with your values and talking over with other people, what can happen is that somebody else uses different words to describe the same thing and we lose clarity. People will sometimes words over how long things are going to take, how much it's going to take, our anticipation and expectation of when things will get done is often where we make assumptions. We kind of we're basing on our experiences, and that's where some doubt can come in when if we're making decisions that are just for us and we know what our core values are and they're aligned, it will work. But if you don't have that kind of clarity, if you don't know yourself well enough, you don't know what works for you, don't know what's important to you, then often what will happen, you'll start to doubt a decision, and that'll be because subconsciously you do know, but you're not consciously aware of what your priority are and what's important to you. So the thing to think about, 3 steps then. Go back and think about, start with the change in the way you give and receive feedback. Notice how you're talking to yourself about your current decision-making process. What works about it, what doesn't work about it, what could work better. Think about what you'd like to have happen. So if you were making good decisions for you, that would be like what? And then confidence is thinking about where you are now versus where you want to be in making good decisions. Map out that process. If this is what's happening now in your decision making process and this is what you'd like to have happen, what would be the first thing? What's the second thing? What's the third thing? What's the fourth thing? What are the things that you could do right now to improve your decision making process? Hope this Manager Critic Monday video has been of use to you. Thank you for joining me here at a different location today, and I will see you again Friday at 8 o'clock. Have a great week, everybody. Speak to you soon.